Hey everybody, MS Farzan here, and in this video we're going to take a look at how to use Google Analytics. I'm going to assume that you've already created a Google account and attached a Google Analytics account to it, but if you haven't, it's super easy to do. Just make sure you have a Google account that you want to use in coordinates with this video, and create a Google Analytics account by going to analytics.google.com and following the prompts to do so. You'll click on the admin gearbox to come into this screen and create a new account. This is kind of like a sub account for your Google Analytics account. It's more like creating a hub that you want to attach to a particular website or a group of websites. And after you create this sub account and create a property, I've already done so here to get us set up and running. The important part to look at is the tracking info, where you can get a tracking code. I'm not going to show you this part just because it's I don't necessarily want everyone on the internet to have that information about my Google Analytics account. But what's required is for you to get this tracking code and embed it in whatever website or YouTube channel or Kickstarter page or whatever it is that you're working with that you want to track information about. Sometimes the website will just need the code for the tracking info. Other times you'll have to provide the entire HTML embed. It's like a script, or it's called a Google tag. That will depend on that side of things, whether you're, let's say you're working with Wix. I think they just need the code. They don't need the full script embed. But if you're doing it yourself, you might have to embed the whole script in the site header. It really depends, and that you'll have to look into on the other side of things. But on this side of things, once you have all of that set up, it's going to start cooking up analytics for you on that site board. So I'm going to click Home. And that takes me to this dashboard, which shows me a few different things about the insights that I'm receiving from my data. The first thing that I see up in this corner is my overview of what's going on with my website. If you go to my website, that's nightpathpub.com or intromancy.com. It doesn't really matter. Right now we see that the traffic has been pretty dismal over this short period, and then there's been a big bump in the past few days because of some stuff that I've been doing. I see how many users have been on the page over the last 7 days. I see how many sessions, meaning like how many a session is the number of if I go to a website, then I'm having a session. That's what that event or occurrence is called. But I might go to the website more than once and have more than one session, and Google Analytics will track that to the best of its ability. So we see that there are 1,100 sessions, whereas there were only 1,000 users. That means that some users came for return visits. The bounce rate we'll talk about in a little bit, and session duration. How long did they spend on the page or the pages that I'm serving up? I also can see how many users are active on my website right now. I can see how many sessions by country. Looks like there's a pretty good spread of countries that people have been traveling to my website for. Some other information like what the traffic sources are. But the real meat of it is going to be in this sidebar here. We're going to click on, first we're going to click on acquisition. And that brings this drop down where I can look into overview. And in overview, I can see the acquisition overview. I can change the time period, but the important part to look at is that I can see what are the specific traffic sources that are driving to different pages on my website. And if I drill down even further, I can go to all traffic and look at channels. And that's going to bring up this page where I can see over time, this is like the past week or so, what the traffic has looked like and what have the sources been for these different for this traffic. So I see there in this time period selected, there were 880 users that came to my site from referral traffic. We can dial into that and see what the referral traffic is, and then it shows me the exact sites where this traffic came from, which is pretty cool. There's a lot to dig into here, but the main thing that I want you to see is that you can have a better idea of where your traffic is coming from. So if you're like, wow, I just got like 20 visitors like today from my from somewhere, and I don't know where they are from, then I can see like, oh, well, actually there was 38 from social. What's that about? And then I see, oh, well, 17 came from Twitter, 13 from Facebook, and 10 from YouTube. And that's important for me to know, so I can say like, well, I'm not getting as much traffic from YouTube as I expected to, or whoa, I'm getting way more traffic from Twitter. Maybe I should spend more time there or put some money into some ads that go to that. And you can even, if you're running Google ads, you can integrate them with your Google Analytics, but that's a different story altogether. Just to give you an idea too of the things that we're looking at here, the graph that we're looking at is right now I have it selected to users, or it's defaulted to users, and I'm looking at users over time. How many users per day came to my channel using social channels to the best of Google Analytics knowledge, and it's not always a perfect system, over the course of this past week. And I can look at it per day or per week or per month based on my own criteria. And I see that it's lifted over this short period of time. And I could change this and say, well, actually I want to do it for how many sessions were in that period. And I'll see, oh, well, this is a little bit different. Or I can change to see what the bounce rate is. And if you have any questions about what each of these units are, you can just hover over them, this little question mark, and you'll see a user. Google defines users who have initiated at least one session during the date range, versus bounce rate, which I mentioned before, the percentage of single page sessions in which there was no interaction with the page. A bounce session has a duration of 0 sessions. 0 seconds. So this just means that someone came to the page and didn't spend any time on it and jumped away. That's called a bounce. So honestly, a 70% bounce rate, is not bad. For a lot of these things, I won't be talking about benchmarks of what's good, like what your bounce rate should be, or what your average session duration should be based on your type of page. I will say that there's a lot of industry research out there. So if you're working in video games, or if you're working in tech, or if you're working in education, or if you're self-publishing, there are most likely some benchmarks out there for what your session duration should be and what your bounce rate should be, or what's a good number of users per day, that sort of thing. And I would check that out so that you have a benchmark to compare yourself to. Obviously, if you're writing a blog that has like 2,000 words, if there's 30 seconds on your page, that's probably not a good session duration, because that means people aren't really reading it. But if you're just doing like a sales hub and people are spending 30 seconds on each page and just moving to the next page or the next section so that they can buy your stuff, that's probably pretty good. So it really depends on what you're going for. Another important piece is to look at the behavior of your website, and you can do that within Google Analytics. If I click on Overview, it'll show me some interesting metrics, and again, I can change the time period to, if I'm interested in a specific time period or a longer time period. I'm just choosing what it's giving me right now at random, because it really doesn't matter for the purposes of this video. And I see that 669 page views, or 33% of all of my page views for the period, are going to the root directory /entromancy, which is one of the page hubs within, or sub pages within the larger Nightpath publishing page. So that's good. Another 31% are going just to the root directory at nightpathpub.com. And then I see a drill down of like, well, where's all the other traffic going? I find this to be really useful, so I know where most of the time on pages is being spent, or where most of the traffic is being directed to, so that I can understand how important those pages are to people and how used they are. And maybe I'll determine, what, these aren't being utilized enough. Maybe I need to either direct more traffic to them, or I need to change the directory structure so people are more easily, it's more easy easily accessible for people to get to them, or maybe I need to change the design or layout of my page so that I'm directing people there more fluidly. So those are the kind of things that I think about when I'm looking at my analytics, but they're important metrics to track, so you know that who's you know how many people are going to those pages, and I can actually click into any one of them. And when I look at the Entromancy page, it shows me the number of page views, how many of those were unique, what was the time on page, how many people entered from this page, then the number of times visitors entered your site through a specific page or set of pages. So that means that although there were 669 people that visited this particular page during this time period, only 424 people went to that page directly, meaning they got to my website through that page. The rest of the people came through other pages within my larger website, whether they came to the root directory and clicked around, or they came to another page and found it that way. And there was a 64% bounce rate. And over half of people that came to this page left my website on this page. So that's also good to know. That seems like this page has had a lot of action and there's a lot of time on page, so that's great. Again, in this visualization of the data, I'm looking at number of page views rather than number of users, but I could change this to bounce rate and see what the bounce rate was over time. There was a higher bounce rate earlier on in the week, but there wasn't a lot of traffic this week, so I didn't really see a lot of bounce these couple of days. And then the bounce rate goes up to a steady like 67-ish% as people start traversing the page once again. So that gives me an idea of what the bounce rate was like over time. You can change this as you see fit. One more important part of this page that's really interesting to look at is the behavior flow. And remember, we're looking at the behavior section of the dashboard here on the left. And I should say that I'm not going to go through every single bit of this. This is for you to dig into. I'm just showing you the important bits that may be useful for you in your websites and your campaigns. And what behavior flow shows me is what is the behavior of most users when they come to the page, depending on the page that they enter my website from. So if they enter the root directory, meaning they just go to nightpathpub.com, I'll show you a visualization of this. They come to this page. Well, in this time period that we've selected, or that has been selected for us, 496 of them have started off on this root directory, this page here. Of those 496, 80 of them have gone through to the Entromancy page, which is this page here. Whereas, let's see, if we follow this trail, 26 of them went to the Not So Supervillains page, and 85 went to 18 other pages. And then most of those people just dropped off. But the people that went to the Entromancy page, several of them went back to the root page. Several of them went to the RPG page, where if I click on this, that's how they would have gotten there. And others went to the books page, others went to other pages. And so we're tracking one user, for example, from the root directory to the Entromancy page to the RPG page. And those RPG page people went back to the Entromancy page. So they went here and then they went, want to go back. And they went and spent time on this page. Now, others came to the website through this Entromancy page that we're already looking at. And several of them went to the RPG page. Others went to the books page. Others went to other pages, so on and so forth. So I get an idea. I got an idea of like, what is the user journey through my website if I have multiple different pages. And how do they get to different places? Where do they go? Where do they drop off? And maybe let's say I'm trying to funnel people through a series of pages to a purchase link. And I see that, before Google Analytics, before looking at any of this stuff, I'm just like, I'm not seeing the types of conversions I thought, or purchases that I thought I might be getting. Well, one of the reasons might be that there's a broken link somewhere and I just don't know that. But this will show me that, like, let's say up here, this, I don't know, this RPG page, that's, no, that's not great. Let's say this books page, where's, just trying to give you an idea of like what a funnel could look like. Let's say this books page is my purchase page, and I see that that there's traffic that's going from one end here on the left side. It's going through different pages right down my funnel, and then it stops here for some reason, and I'm not seeing any traffic on that books page. Well, maybe I need to check on this page where traffic seems to be dropping off, and I notice that there's a broken link. It's not actually directing towards my sales page. That is where this could be useful, or letting me know that I need to reconfigure things so that I'm able to provide a seamless and fluid journey for any user that comes to my website. A couple of other things to mention here. One is that you can look at your audience. And I to be honest, I don't use this a lot because I don't do a lot of targeted marketing or advertising, but you can look at this and see by language, who are the people that are coming to your website, by country, by type of browser, by operating system, by like whether they're using a desktop or mobile, and that might be useful for you. I think they also show, yes, they do demographics. And there might be additional setup required, but if you're trying to market to a specific person or a specific group, you can look into your data here to determine how well you're doing and how you can do better. And you can also you can also use the conversions section, and this is a little bit more in the weeds, where you can create goals for yourself, or goals for your website, I should say, in terms of conversions or purchases. And this will require a little bit of more back-end work to determine what does a conversion on your page look like, and what does that mean for Google Analytics, and how do you track that? Something to look into here is Google Tag Manager, which is a completely separate product that I've only worked with a little bit to get things working. But just suffice it to say that if you're setting up shop with a more complex web page or web app that you're trying to track purchase funnels and like user journeys and all that stuff, you'll have to work with, you'll want to look into conversions and also Google Tag Manager, but that's a separate story entirely. And you can do things like track events under your behaviors, where like you can set an event that say like when something happens on your page, let me know, and track that event so that I know that a user clicked here, or they submitted an email form, or they clicked on a thing, or they exited using this particular link, or they did this other thing. You can set up these different events as well, so that you have a better idea of what people are doing when they come to your page, and then you can cater to that or change things as necessary depending on your usage and your objectives. So all this to say, Google Analytics can be really useful in giving you an idea of who's coming to your website, and how to work with that data to improve your page views, improve your time on page, have a better bounce rate, and generally make a more seamless and fluid process and user journey for people who are coming to your website or to your YouTube page or your Kickstarter page or whatever you've tied your Google Analytics account to. And I hope this video has been useful for you. If it has, please do like it and subscribe to my channel for more. You can check out my books and games as well, and I look forward to seeing you soon.